To the east at Gold Beach were the British, and of course Montgomery leading the way. Explain to us what this moment also means for the British.
If I may, I mean, Tom, the emotion in your voice as you talk about the fact that they're walking the way that the soldiers didn't go, I think has been a constant theme of the commemorations this week, and also actually over the last 75 years. But the moment that really struck me was when Her Majesty the Queen was speaking in Portsmouth yesterday, yes, talking about the sacrifice of the wartime generation, which of course she was part of, as the President recognised in his remarks at the state banquet on Monday night. And she talked about the resilience. And of course, you know, much has been written, much I hope will be written about the extraordinary special relationship between the UK and US, but also our other partners in that extraordinary endeavour 75 years ago today. You know, we've seen the films, we've read the books, we've all watched Band of Brothers, but it's, I think, just important to remember what exactly happened on that day and the process that it began of the liberation of Europe, and that's what you're watching there on the screen today.
As George Will says in his new book, quoting Abraham Lincoln, then on to other worthies, and then time slips away. That's really what we see here at Normandy today. I think the 85th, the 95th commemoration.
Well, but this, I think, is the important thing, as the Queen said, is that, you know, those soldiers who are there today, they're 94, they're 95. I tweeted last night about an extraordinary moment watching a 95-year-old former paratrooper repeating the jump.
With the gentleman on the back of the gentleman.
Exactly. Yes. Now, he's 95. Will he be... This generation is passing away, but this is why it's so important that we tell their story, whether it's in the books or by commemorating the events as we're seeing now, because the people who lived it are inevitably, inexorably passing away, so we keep the memory alive.
Rick Atkinson out with his wonderful first volume on the War of the Rebellion. This is where the colonies left the United Kingdom a number of years ago. And you look at the shared history here, which goes towards your true expertise in trade relations. What is the media getting wrong now about the tone of coming post-Brexit UK-US trade discussions?
Well, I think the way I would look at it, I think we need to get behind the headlines. We need to sort of, we need to talk about the extraordinary relationship that we already have between the UK and US, whether it's in terms of trade, investment, people-to-people links, and then we need to look to the future. Then we need to think about what are we going to do with this relationship? How are the UK and US going to continue to build that transatlantic corridor as we leave the EU? It will be part of our global engagement, both with the EU, with the US, with other parts of the world. I think we have a shared commitment to a system of global rules that are free and fair, as the Prime Minister and the President talked about in their business roundtable, St James's Palace, on Tuesday morning. That's the agenda that we need to get to. That's the substance of it, and that's what we need to start to map out.
Let us talk Elizabeth I and Elizabeth II. Elizabeth II is a successful Ricardian experience of a global trade, a multilateral world, and all that we learned out of World War II. Elizabeth I was a mercantilism of another time in place. How do we get the dialogue on a bilateral basis and on a multilateral basis back to the good of the Atlantic Charter and forward?
I think you start there. You start with the principles. You start with the values that underpin our relationship, not just the UK-US, but the others who are at their commemoration today and were in Portsmouth yesterday. You think about the world that we want to create, both the world that we want to live in, the world that, you know, whether it's climate change or how we deal with increasing sort of global challenges around resource scarcity, and we also talk about global peace and security.
Consul General, if I could interrupt, what is so important here is the belief of the President that for the U.S. to win, we must take unit trade from Europe, where a guy like you, within your modern history at Oxford, knows that new trade can be additive upon present trade. How do we get to a trade agreement where good new American-UK trade is additive upon EU-UK trade?
I think the way we do it is we set out a sort of a comprehensive, holistic agenda. If you look at the Trade and Investment Working Group that Secretary of State Liam Fox and Ambassador Bob Lighthizer have been pursuing since the summer of 2017, it includes talking about our bilateral relationship, but it also talks about what we can do to help our SMEs in the here and now, and it also talks about what we can do together to address global challenges. We need to take that into those global fora and keep talking about what makes our lives better.